どうも、勝手に電力2.0で始めたいと思います。今日1272回目というところで、この Batteries and Secure Energy Transition というのは IEA のところを出してきたので、このあたりを少しエグゼクティブサマリーを見ていきたいなと思っていますと。Batteries are essential part of global energy system today and the fastest growing energy technology on the market. Battery storage in the past power sector was the fastest growing energy technology in 2023 that was commercially available, with deployment more than doubling year on year. Strong growth occurred for utility-scale battery projects behind the meter batteries, mini grid, and solar home systems for electricity access. Adding a total of 14 gigawatts of battery storage capacity globally, electric vehicle EV battery deployment increased by 40% in 2023, with 14 million new electric cars, accounting for the vast majority of batteries used in the sector, energy sector. やっぱり EV のっていうのが、蓄電池の一番使われる量。Despite the continuing use of lithium-ion batteries in billions of personal devices in the world, the energy sector now accounts for over 90% of annual lithium-ion battery demand. This is up from 50% for the energy sector in 2016, when the total lithium-ion battery market was 10 times smaller. With falling costs of improving performance, lithium-ion batteries have become a cornerstone of modern economies, underpinning the proliferation of the personal electronic devices, including smartphones, as well as the growth in the energy sector. In 2023, there were nearly 45 million EVs on the road, including cars, buses, and trucks, and over 85 gigawatts of battery storage in use in the power sector globally. Lithium-ion batteries dominate battery use due to the recent cost reduction and performance improvements. Lithium-ion battery has outclassed alternatives over the last decade thanks to 90% cost reduction since 2010. Higher energy densities and longer lifetimes. Lithium-ion battery prices have declined from USD 1,400 per kilowatt hour in 2010 to less than USD 140% per kilowatt hour in 2023, one of the fastest cost declines of any energy technology ever as a result of progress in research and development and economies of scale in the manufacturing. They have also achieved much higher energy densities than lead-acid batteries, allowing them to be stacked in much lighter and more compact battery packs. Lithium-ion batteries dominate both EV and storage applications, and chemistries can be adapted to mineral availability and price, demonstrated by the market share for lithium-ion phosphate LFP batteries rising to 40% of EV sales and 80% of new battery storage in 2023. Lithium-ion chemistries represent nearly all batteries in EVs and new storage applications today. For new EV cells, over half of batteries use chemistries with relatively high nickel content that gives them higher energy density. LFP batteries account for the remaining EV market share and are lower cost, less dense lithium-ion chemistry that does not contain nickel or cobalt, with even lower vulnerability and longer lifetime. While energy density is of utmost importance for EV batteries, it is less critical for battery storage, leading to the significant shift toward LFP batteries. Policy support has given a boost for battery deployment in many markets, but the supply chain for batteries is very concentrated. Strong government support for the rollout of EVs and incentive for battery storage are expanding markets for batteries around the world. China is currently the world's largest market for batteries and accounts for over half of all batteries in use in the energy sector today. The European Union is the next largest market. 面白いですね。中国、ヨーロッパなんですね。Market followed by the United States. なので、中国、ヨーロッパ、アメリカってやっぱ大国からですね。With smaller market also in the United Kingdom, Korea, and Japan. Battery use is also growing in emerging markets and developing economies outside China, including in Africa, where close to 400 million people gain access through decentralized solutions such as solar home systems and mini-grid with batteries in order to achieve universal access by 2030. While the global battery supply chain is complex, every step in it, from the extraction of mineral ores to the use of high-grade chemicals for the manufacture of battery components in the final battery pack, has a high degree of geographic concentration. Battery manufacturers are dependent on a small number of countries for the raw material supply and extraction of many critical minerals. China undertakes well over half of global raw materials processing for lithium and cobalt and has almost 85% of global battery cells production capacity. Europe, the United States, and Korea each hold 10% or less of the supply chain for some battery metal and cell today. Achieving COP28 target will hinge on battery deployment, increasing sevenfold by 2030. Batteries are key to the transition away from fossil fuels and accelerate the pace of energy efficiency through electrification and greater use of renewable in power. In transport, a growing fleet of EVs on the road displaces the need for 8 million barrels of oil per day by 2030 in the net zero emission by 2050 energy scenario. More than the entire oil consumption for road transport in Europe today. In the power sector, battery storage supports transition away from baiting, innovate in innovating coal and natural gas, while increasing the efficiency of power systems by reducing losses and congestion in electricity grids. In other sectors, clean electrification enabled by batteries is crucial to reduce the use of oil, natural gas, and coal. To triple global renewable energy capacity by 2030, while maintaining electricity security, energy storage needs to increase 6 times to facilitate the rapid uptake of new solar PV and wind. Global energy storage capacity increases to 1,500 gigawatts by 2030 in the energy scenario, which meets the Paris Agreement target of limiting global average temperature increases to 1.5 Celsius or less in 2100. Battery storage today delivers 90% of that growth, rising 14-fold to 1,200 gigawatts by 2030, complemented by pump storage, compressed air, and fry oil to deliver these. Battery storage deployment must continue to increase by an average of 25% per year to 2030, which will require action from policymakers and industry taking advantage of the fact that battery storage can be built in a matter of months and months in most locations. In the energy scenario, about 60% of the CO2 emission reduction in 2030 in the energy sector are associated with batteries, making them a critical element to meeting our shared climate goals. Close to 20% are directly linked to batteries in EVs, and battery-enabled solar PV. Another 40% of emission reductions are from electrification of end uses and renewable that are indirectly facilitated by batteries. Batteries bolster multiple aspects of energy security. Battery storage helps to strengthen electrify security in all markets as the nature of electricity demand and supply changes. Will with more electrification and more variable generation from wind and solar PV, battery storage is well placed to provide short-term flexibility from periods of 1 8 hour continuously, and thus to help power system operator ensure there is enough supply to meet peak demands. Its fast and accurate responses to market signals in a matter of seconds make battery storage ideal for providing support for grid stability. And it is also being used for this purpose in many markets. Battery storage can also serve as critical backup generators in case of grid outages or emergencies, ensuring uninterrupted power supplies to critical facilities such as hospitals, emergency response center, and infrastructure like grid substations and communication networks. Batteries in EVs and storage installation reduce the need for imported fossil fuels, increasing self-sufficiency in many countries. EVs reduce the need for oil importing in many countries, including China, Europe, India, Japan, and Korea. The need for natural gas and coal imports is reduced directly by battery-enabled renewables, displacing natural gas-fired and coal-fired power, and indirectly by the electrification of industry and buildings where the use of electricity replaced fossil fuels. Further cost declines for batteries improve their affordability in all applications and make them a cost-effective part of energy systems. Further innovation in battery chemistries and manufacturing is projected to reduce global average lithium-ion battery cost by a further 40% from 2023 to 2030 and bring sodium-ion battery to the market. In the energy scenario, lithium-ion chemistries continue providing the vast majority of EV batteries to 2030. Further innovation both reduces the upfront cost of lithium-ion batteries and bring about additional improvements in the performance, notably in the form of higher energy densities and longer useful lives. Sodium batteries provide less than 10% of EV batteries to 2030 and make up a growing share of the batteries used for energy storage because they use less expensive materials and do not use lithium, resulting in production costs that can be 30% less than LFP batteries. Beyond 2030, battery costs are likely to decline further, and solid-state batteries are on track to be commercially available with the potential to bring massive performance gains. Solar PV Plus battery is competitive today with new coal-fired power in India, and in the next couple of years, become competitive with new coal in China and new natural gas-fired power in the United States. Even in the state policy scenario steps, which is based on today's policy settings, the total upfront cost of utility-scale battery storage projects, including the battery plus installation, other components and developers' costs are projected to decline by 40% by 2030. This makes standalone battery storage more competitive with natural gas peaker plants, and battery storage paired with solar PV one of the most competitive new source of electricity. And the amount of battery storage capacity added to 2030 in the steps is said to be more than the total fossil fuel capacity added over the period. A significant part in the behind the meter battery storage paired with rooftop solar PV, including many individual batteries aggregated into virtual power plants, as it becomes an increasingly attractive option for customers in a world of the broadly stable or rising retail electricity prices. For electricity access, the average electricity cost of mini grid with solar PV and batteries halved by 2030. Foreign battery costs are set to raise the share of cost-competitive electric cars in the market from around 50% today. Currently, the least expensive EV models are available in China, with lower sticker prices than comparable gasoline and diesel cars. In advanced economics, there is still a price gap for electric cars that takes years to recover through lower fuel and maintenance costs. Battery price cuts and intense competition among car makers are set to make more types of EVs in more markets competitive. A growing number of EV will have lower sticker prices than gasoline or diesel cars directly, and many others will cost slightly more to buy but save money for customers over a few years. Scaling up the global battery market creates new opportunity for delivery diversifying supply chains. The global market value of batteries quadruples by 2030 on the path to net zero emissions. Currently, the global value of battery packs in EVs and storage application is USD 120 billion, rising to nearly USD 500 billion in 2030 in the energy scenario, even with today's policy settings. The battery market is set to expand to a total value of USD 330 billion in 2030, booming market for batteries are attracting new sources of financing, including around USD 6 billion in battery startups from venture capital in 2023 alone. Batteries are the master key that can unlock several much bigger transformation and much bigger industrial prices. The global car market is valued at USD 4 trillion today, and leadership in it will depend on battery technology. Batteries or support more wind and solar power, solar PV, which capture USD 6 trillion in investment in the energy scenario from 2024 to 2030 by balancing out their variation and stabilizing the grid. Battery manufacturing is a dynamic industry, and scaling it up creates opportunities to diversify battery supply chains. Battery manufacturing capacity is set to expand rapidly, and if all announced plans are built on time, would be practically sufficient to meet the battery requirements of the energy scenario in 2030. While China is set to expand its battery manufacturing significantly, announced plans imply that its share of the global market will decrease to about two-thirds of the global total in 2030. As other regions scale up, both Europe and North America have announced plans to boost their domestic battery manufacturing capacity. It's set to grow their market share to about 15% in 2030 and able to provide almost all the domestic demand for batteries. There are important risks for batteries that could hinder their growth and contribution to energy transition, energy security, and affordability. Scaling up critical mineral supply in time to meet rising needs is essential to the success of batteries and requires action to address policy and regulatory barriers. In the energy scenario, demand for critical minerals for batteries expand rapidly by 2030, with manganese, lithium, graphite, and nickel increasing at least sixfold and cobalt more than tripling. While this requires new mining and refining innovation on chemistries, enhanced recycling, and light size of batteries can cut demand for critical minerals by about 25% by 2030. Pouring to scale up battery storage in line with the tripling of renewables by 2030 would risk storing green energy transition in the power sector. In a low battery case, the uptake of solar PV in particular is slowed down, putting at risk close to 500 gigawatts of the solar PV need to triple renewable capacity by 2030, 20% of the gap for renewable capacity between steps and energy scenario. If other low-emission sources were not able to replace the lost solar PV, emission reduction in the power sector would stall in the 2030s, putting the target of limiting the global average temperature rise to 1.5 seem out of reach. The low battery case would lead to prolonged use of coal and natural gas in the power sector and raise fuel import bill. Analysis indicate that import bill would be an average of USD 12.5 billion more per year for the 2030 to 2050 in importing countries, with Europe and Korea as most exposed to this risk for natural gas imports and India for local imports. Recommendations for batteries to fulfill their role. For batteries to scale up as necessary to support ambitious clean energy transition, policymakers and regulators need to take action to support their deployment and minimize batteries and bottlenecks. Policy and regulatory frameworks need to ensure that batteries are able to participate in markets and are remunerated appropriately for the service they provide to the power system. The large-scale adoption of EVs calls for wider availability for affordable models and the rollout of charging infrastructure. Promoting smart charging will be vital to integrate rising numbers of EVs in power systems and reduce the need for grid reinforcements. policymakers and regulators need to work with national and international partners and with industry to support the development of battery supply chains that are secure, resilient, and sustainable. Building the supply chain requires a comprehensive approach that encompasses all stages from raw material extraction, refining, and manufacturing through to end-of-life product management and recycling, minimizing the carbon footprint. Battery recycling has the potential to be a significant secondary source of supply of critical minerals that is more sustainable and less geographically concentrated than primary supply. Targeted policies such as minimal recycled content requirements and tradable recycling credit can foster its growth in the short term, especially if international standards can be established. That's all. Thank you. So next time I will look up the another IEA